This whole system has been a trick. And it's been a trick from the day they said that they put Christ on the cross. But we were going to be in the system of the dead, what they call it dead and lost at sea. And that was the age of Pisces. Pisces is the fish is the sea, and we all will be dead and lost at sea. So guess what? They said Jesus was a fisherman of men. Well, he could walk on the water because he was the only one that belonged to the land. But the fish was Pisces. Pisces, he said, Matthew 28, I want to say Matthew 20, Jesus said, I'll be with you till the end of an age. The age was Pisces. But now we're in the age of Aquarius. Aquarius is the water bearer. Aquarius is allowing all the stuff that was hidden to now become unveiled. The truth has to be unveiled. So where we're going with this is now, Jesus said, once I'm done, you're going into a whole new age. But once you go into the new age, you're going into what's called everlasting life. You're no longer in the period of death. Because remember, we're in the period of death. Even everything with the corporation is the United States. The United States is a corporation based out of Delaware. And that's why they said the first president of the corporation crossed over to Delaware. And then the last president of the corporation, he used to go back to Delaware all the time. So the first one was George Washington. And then you had Joe Biden going back and forth to Delaware because he was never living in the White House. He was always going back to the cemetery to wherever he lived, right? So he was the last one. He crossed to Delaware. Trump is the one that says, hey, in the last days, he says, you're going to hear the trumpets. So he's letting you know that, hey, we're back. And he stays in a place called Mar-a-Lago. What's Mar-a-Lago? Mar, M-A-R, is the abbreviation for Morocco. Most people didn't know that. I didn't even realize that until here lately. MAR is the abbreviation for Morocco. So we're going back to Morocco. America is Al Morocco, right? So now, why did they control the dead? Because the indigenous people were the only ones with the birthright. Why they call my birthright citizenship all of a sudden, right? That's the 14th Amendment. I'll get into numerology in a minute. When they start putting us into these dead entities. And I was talking about the corporation. The United States is a corporation. The first one that is a corporation is what? C-O-R-P as in corpse. So they had to make you dead. So remember when you in first grade, and they had you do, first thing was they had you do the Pledge of Allegiance. And what did you do when you did the Pledge of Allegiance? You put your hand over your heart to suppress your heartbeat to make yourself dead. So once they made you dead, then they could cast a spell on you. And that's why the first course they taught you when you were in school was what? Spelling, right? So they could cast spells. Now, they did that, and then they said they had us all riding in a bus together. But what's the opposite of the word bus? So as a submarine. And what's in a submarine? A little yellow submarine. So that's the water, and everybody's all swarmed up together like a school of fish. When you're going to school in the bus, right? In the yellow submarine. So they're doing that kind of stuff to make everybody just like, oh my God, we have no rights for real. And they taught you cursive writing. Why did they teach you cursive? Because to cast spells on yourself, curse on yourself. And even when you go into places like the courts and the airports and all this other stuff, they made you dead. And let me break that down. You go into court, well, they send you a summons to go to court. You're on summons to dead. Then the next thing they do is they want you to make an appearance. Well, only ghosts make appearances. Then the next thing they do is the bailiff comes out and he says, all rise. And then only, the dead rises. And that's why they have church pews in the courtroom, because you're at your own funeral, right? And it's crazy how they do it. That's why the judges are wearing a black robe, because they know they're conducting the funeral, right? So now you got that. And then, like I said, the other thing, like the airport, you go into the airport, the first thing you see is arrivals and departures, because they're saying you're dead on arrival and you have departed. And you go into that airport, guess what? You have to go down the terminal, because you've been terminated. It's all about dead rituals that they've done to us. Now, what has to happen now is now that we're in Aquarius, you got to go into everlasting life. Washington, D.C. is the capital of the corporation.